Yo, what up? This is Josie. You're watching Arctic View, and welcome back to my August and September reads. Now, I have quite many books this time around, and if you're into that kind of stuff, like book reviews, then you'll find them in my channel. I read a variety of books from history to sci-fi to young adult and some classics thrown in. And if you feel like this is something that might interest you, then subscribe, but let's get down to business now. As always, I'm going to leave the timestamps of different books down in the description, so if you're just interested in one or two books, then you can click on there. But other than that, let's get started. And the first one is a legit history book for a change. It's from a series that they published for Estonia's 100th birthday, and they did different topics. They did like politics, sports, culture, art, things like that. And this is about communication, infrastructure, stuff like that. So it tackles telegraph, post, radio, TV, and internet. And I know what you're thinking. Boring. You're slightly right. So I would say that half of this book was really good and half of it was just listing different types of electronics that they used for telephones after the Second World War, etc. It really resembles a student's essay in that sense that the beginning is very strong and by the end they definitely ran out of time, but it was so good. I really liked it. That there were so many nice tidbits that I'm going to just insert into a conversation from now on, like where was the first post box in Tallinn and how the telephone lines looked in the beginning of 20th century and all that stuff. But yes, I would say that everything after the Second World War was a bit of a dud. The second problem I have with it is that it was not balanced in a way, because I started seeing a lot of women in the pictures in post offices and doing whatnot, but they never addressed it. They never addressed that it was a good job for women, or that women were represented in quite large numbers. And even when they listed different post offices that were led by women, they never talked about women. Only one woman, I think, was addressed in a longer form. Slightly disappointing, but I realize that this is just me reading it and I'm trying to look for representation, and normal people maybe wouldn't pay it any attention, but I thought it was weird. Did you read it? Maybe if you're into postal stuff. I know a lot of people are. I know I kind of am, because in Berlin, in postal museum, I went nuts. But yes, probably not. The second book I read was this sci-fi fantasy type of book called Rosewater, and it's by Tade Thompson, yes. So it's a very interesting book. It takes place in Nigeria, and the premise is that some time ago, alien form smashed, just fell on Earth, and then they built some kind of biome. So in London they nuked it, but in Nigeria it was left alone to grow, and now the city has developed around it. So people live there because once a year the dome opens and some kind of small microorganisms get spread in the air, and people heal. If they have any type of serious sickness like cancer, or if they have broken their foot, it will heal. It will maybe not heal as they planned, because especially if they have broken body parts, they might come back together in a weird way, and some of the people who are cured turn crazy, kind of like kind of like zombies, but yes, and they have to be put down later. And then, of course, some of the dead come back to life because the microorganisms try to fix the dead as well. But this is not the point of it. The point is that the microorganisms also changed something in some people's minds, so they can read thoughts. And this follows our protagonist, who is like 40-50-year man who is not really something you want to root for. He's just an interesting character with a lot of flaws, and he's kind of like an anti-hero. The story follows him when all the people like him who can read thoughts start dying. So it's the first book in a 3-part series, obviously. It seems like everything these days is, but it's very fast, it's very engaging, it's very interesting, and I do recommend it. I think it's a nice quick read. I think it took only 2 days for me to read through it because I was just so engaged in everything. So I definitely recommend this to add to your list if you are interested in these types of books. Now, for something completely different, this is a book, Beautiful Darkness, by Fabien, Vehlmann, and Kerascoët. It's a comic book, but it's very dark, as you can see from here. This is somebody's hand. So the book starts with a small girl collapsing, dying essentially in a forest, and then all her thoughts or characters, fantasy characters that live inside her head, will just spill out of the head and try to live in this new environment that is the forest. And it gets creepy very fast. It is quite violent. It's a weird juxtaposition because the characters look so cute and the drawing style is very cute, but then like really bad stuff happens. Like people get or the characters get decapitated, they die. Basically everybody dies until the end. Only a few of them are left. So a weird story, not really my cup of tea. When I finished it, I wasn't sure if I was happy that I had read it or not. Like, it's really creepy, but if you're into that sort of stuff, then go for it. As for the other comic that I read, this is Nimona by Noelle Stevenson, and I really love this. It's quite thick. It's over 250 pages, and it centers around these 3 people. Basically, a hero, the villain, and I would say that Nimona is kind of like a trickster character, so just trying to mess things up, but kill people, and aid the villain in his quest to be villainous. The story starts with Nimona suddenly appearing in the villain's lair and then getting to be his sidekick, which he's not that happy about, but they learn to appreciate each other, let's say like that. And obviously the hero is not what he seems. They had a relationship prior to them growing apart. It's very classical in that sense, and I just really like the style of it. It really reads like a book, not a comic book. There is so much story here. Usually what I don't like about comics is that it's all very superficial and it doesn't really go into everybody's backstories and stuff like that. It will go if you just read like 20 of them, then you'll get the whole arc, but this really sucks you in, and it's very emotional, and I think it has a lot of depth, and of course it's very funny. The Nimona character is wonderfully done, and I really enjoyed it, and I'm very happy that I got to read it after The Beautiful Darkness, because if I had done it the other way around, maybe I would have been a bit more sad about my experience. The 5th book I read is by Sarah Millican, and it's her autobiography, and it's called How to Be a Champion. Now, I have read 4 different 4 different autobiographies by stand-up comics from UK, and they have all been so vastly different that I was not sure what I was going to get when I started this. Now, this is very much like Sarah Millican. It's funny, it's self-deprecating, but also building yourself up. I like the idea of how to be a champion, because after every chapter she gives you tips from her own life how to be a champion, how to turn maybe some negative things into positive things. And I would say that in a sense it is self-help book, but it's also just so funny. We get to know her a bit more, but it doesn't get as private or as intimate as some of the other comic book autobiographies get, and I did not mind that. It's everybody's choice how much they want to show themselves to you, especially comics who expose themselves all the time. What else did I like about it? I really enjoy her humor. It's very tongue-in-cheek, it's very kind of like Jimmy Carr's humor, but better. She looks very proper, but she has a real mouth on her, so she starts a sentence and you're not sure where it's going to end, and then it's like poof. I enjoyed it. It's fun. It's very good to have on your bedside table to read a bit before going to sleep. And then hello light. And now we're into my final book, and when I was in high school I promised myself that I would read all the literature that I was supposed to read, but I didn't have time to because life was happening. Now I've tried to deliver on that, and the classic that I read this time was 12 Chairs by Ilf and Petrov, so 2 men writing about shenanigans. What I've noticed, at least from those books I read from Russian authors, is that there is so much description, there is so much happening, and the characters are such characters that you would not think that they could exist, but they do exist. When you read about them, when you're at least where I live, you know these people. You know that those people are real and it's not just a caricature of somebody. But anyway, if you're not sure what this book is about, then a former noble is living with his wife's mother, I think. And when the mother is about to die, she confesses that she hid diamonds, jewels inside one of the 12 chairs that they had in their old home before the Russian Revolution happened. This whole book is about this nobleman trying to find these 12 chairs, which are not together. Some of them have been given to the theaters, some of them have been given to just individuals because of the Soviet time, because what was once for nobles is now for everyone. And very soon after he tries to find them, he happens upon a real conman, Ostap Bender, who is the worst person, I would say, and I would never want to know that kind of person and not ever get in his way. But he's a true con man and very fun to read about, but then they form an alliance and they try to find the chairs, and also trying to find the chairs is a priest who took the mother's last confession. So there are 3 people trying to find these chairs, and they happen upon a lot of fun things on the way. They have to go above and beyond to different places to find it, and on the way you see this wonderful parade of characters who all have their very specific selfish needs, and you can see just all the negative things that are around us, but kind of from like a funny prism. I did quite enjoy it, and I think that next book that I'm going to pick up from the Russian classics will have to be something more serious, because I read so much funny stuff then, maybe then Tolstoy or Dostoevsky or something like that. If you have any recommendations, do leave them down below. Ta-da! These were the books I read during these 2 months, and I'm quite happy with myself. I feel I'm back into reading a lot again, and October seems to be a really good month for me. So this was all for this time. Leave down below what do you think would be the book that would interest you the most, and what you don't want to read at all, maybe because I gave it such a bad review, but maybe because it's just not your cup of tea. Other than that, thank you so much for watching. If you're interested in these kinds of videos or week stuff or whatnot, and you haven't followed me yet, then please do subscribe, leave a like, and thank you again so much for watching. Keep safe, keep warm, and see you another time. Bye!